Frustration led me to be unfaithful to you in the past.
Maybe.
No, it led me.
Maybe.
You said it.
Because I think.
Okay.
That
so
possibly.
Okay.
Hey, I'm talking to you right now. Head up the phone.
I guess that's your boyfriend.
Yeah.
Maria was born in 1989, growing up in the vibrant warmth of Puerto Rico. Her early years were filled with sunshine, the salty ocean breeze, and the kind of childhood that felt almost perfect. She loved her home, the beaches, the tropical air, the easygoing way of life. But despite the paradise around her, Maria's world had cracks beneath the surface. Her parents divorced when she was young, a decision she never fully understood. To her, love was supposed to last forever. Watching her family split apart planted something deep inside her, a determination. She swore that when she found love, she would never let it go, no matter what. After high school, Maria enrolled in nursing school, ready to build a future for herself. That's when she met Joel. Handsome, charming, and magnetic. He seemed like everything she had ever wanted. From the moment they met, Maria was captivated. It felt like fate. Joel swept her off her feet and she fell fast. But love, as Maria would soon learn, isn't always what it seems. And sometimes, the promises we make to ourselves can become our downfall. Maria saw a future with Joel, bright, secure, everything she had ever dreamed of. They texted constantly, spent hours talking, and with each conversation, Maria fell deeper. The attention Joel gave her made her feel special, like she was the only woman in the world. But while Maria was lost in love, those closest to her saw something she didn't. Her friends and family had concerns. Joel was 10 years older, an entire decade more experienced, more mature. To them, the age gap was a red flag, but Maria didn't see it that way. To her, Joel wasn't just older. He was established, ambitious, a man who knew what he wanted. And that's exactly what she was looking for. Their relationship moved fast. Within a short time, Maria and Joel were married. It was 2010. She was young, in love, and ready to start the rest of her life. Their next goal? Leave Puerto Rico. Texas, Florida. It didn't matter where as long as it was somewhere new. Joel was training to become a CRNA, a certified registered nurse anesthetist. The pay was good, the career was stable, and unlike becoming a doctor, he wouldn't have to spend endless years in school. Joel was set on success, and Maria was right by his side. By October 2014, Maria's life seemed even more perfect. She gave birth to a baby boy, a moment she had dreamed about for so long. Becoming a mother filled her with happiness, and she felt even closer to Joel. To her, they were now a real family. Then in 2016, their dream became reality. Joel landed a job as a nurse anesthetist in Texas, and just like that, they packed up and left Puerto Rico behind. The move was everything they had worked toward: better opportunities, a fresh start, a real future. Joel's new job paid well, which meant Maria could do what she truly wanted: stay home and devote herself to raising their son. From the outside, their life seemed perfect: a loving marriage, a beautiful child, a successful career. But sometimes things that look perfect on the surface are hiding something much darker underneath. And for Maria, the dream she had built was about to become a nightmare. By 2017, Maria had exciting news. She was pregnant again. But before she could even begin to plan for her growing family, everything fell apart. She suffered a miscarriage. The loss was devastating. Maria had never experienced heartbreak like this before. She grieved deeply, mourning the life that was taken from her before it even began. But instead of comforting her, Joel reacted in a way that shattered her even more. He didn't understand. Worse, he didn't believe her. Joel became distant, cold. He started accusing Maria, convincing himself that she had done something to cause the miscarriage on purpose. To Maria, the idea was insane, cruel even. She was already drowning in grief, and now the one person who was supposed to support her was turning against her. Eventually, they pushed through. They had to. Joel and Maria agreed to try again, and this time, it worked. Maria gave birth to their second son. She should have been the happiest she had ever been, but something was wrong. Joel wasn't happy. Instead of celebrating their newborn, he withdrew. He became distant, uninterested. Maria had expected him to be present, to step up as a father, but instead it was like he wanted nothing to do with their growing family. Then the changes started. Joel was never home. He took every overtime shift he could, using work as an excuse to stay away. When he wasn't at the hospital, he was at the gym. When he wasn't at the gym, he was with friends. Maria was left alone to care for the kids, and when she tried to talk to him, it was like he had already checked out. And then there was the secrecy. One day, Maria noticed Joel had changed the pin on his phone. He became guarded, careful, like he was hiding something. She brushed it off at first, telling herself she was overthinking. But the signs were there, and soon they became impossible to ignore. His body changed almost overnight. Within just a few weeks, Joel looked different. Bigger, bulkier, almost unnatural. Maria suspected he was taking gym supplements, maybe even testosterone. His sudden transformation wasn't just physical. His entire personality seemed off. Maria had no idea what was happening, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. And as time went on, that feeling would only grow stronger. Because Joel wasn't just pulling away, he was hiding something. And soon Maria would find out exactly what it was. By January 2019, Maria's world was beginning to crumble. One night, Joel sat her down and told her something she never expected to hear. He wanted a break. He wasn't happy. Things weren't working. He needed space. Maria's heart sank. Divorce was something she had sworn she would never put her kids through. She had promised herself, ever since she was a child, that no matter what, she would fight for her marriage. But now, the life she had worked so hard to build was slipping through her fingers. Joel moved out, but in many ways, he never really left. Some nights, he would come back. He'd sleep over at Maria's place, tucking himself back into the family he had chosen to leave. And when he was there, he had expectations. Maria was still supposed to cook for him, to clean his clothes, to take care of him as if nothing had changed. And when he wanted intimacy, Maria was expected to comply, whether she wanted to or not. It was like she was his wife when it was convenient for him, but then one day everything shifted. Something caught her eye, a plane ticket to Spain. Maria froze. She had never been to Spain. They had never talked about a trip to Spain, so why did Joel have a plane ticket? Her mind raced with possibilities, but deep down she already knew the answer. When she confronted Joel, he barely flinched. He told her he had gone on a trip with some work friends. Just a casual getaway, nothing to worry about. But Maria wasn't stupid. She pressed him, demanding the truth. And then, like a crack in a mask, the truth slipped out. The trip wasn't with just any friend. It was with her, Janet, a woman from work. Someone Joel had been getting close to, too close. And just like that, Maria's worst fears were confirmed. Joel hadn't just moved out, he had moved on. After everything, after the lies, the betrayal, and the trip to Spain, Joel did what cheaters always do. He begged for forgiveness. He told Maria he was done with Janet, that it was a mistake, that he wanted to change, to be a better husband, a better father. He swore that he loved her, that their family was worth fighting for. Maria wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. Divorce wasn't an option in her mind. She had spent her entire life vowing that she would never put her children through what she went through. So, despite everything, she forgave him. She told herself that people make mistakes, that love was about working through the hard times, that if Joel was willing to change, she had to give him that chance. But that's the thing about people like Joel. They never really change. At first, he played the role of the perfect husband, sweet, attentive, saying all the right things. And for a moment, Maria thought maybe, just maybe, they could fix what was broken, but it didn't last. One week, he was a devoted family man. The next, he was back to his old ways, lying, disappearing for days, sometimes weeks at a time. Telling Maria he was working late when she knew deep down he wasn't. The pattern repeated itself over and over. Maria was trying to fix something that was already shattered. And deep down, she was starting to realize Joel wasn't just destroying their marriage, he was destroying her.
Don't put that on me.
What are you talking about?
What? Because it feels like you're like, okay, look, if I stay in the house, I'm gonna be frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Frustration led me to be unfaithful to you in the past.
Maybe.
No, it led me.
Maybe.
You said it.
Because I think.
Okay.
That
so
possibly.
Okay. What do you have to say?
Nothing.
So what do you want me to do with that?
With what?
With nothing.
I don't know. It's up to you.
No, Papa. You walk out that door, we're getting a divorce.
All right, fine. You got it.
By August 2020, the truth was impossible to ignore. Joel wasn't going to change. For years, Maria had held onto the hope that things would get better, that if she just tried hard enough, forgave enough, loved enough, their marriage would heal. But now she was starting to see things for what they really were. Her future with Joel wasn't bright. It was a dead end. And for the first time, Maria allowed herself to consider something she had sworn she would never do. Divorce. Maybe it wasn't the enemy she had always feared. Maybe, just maybe, it was the only way to take back her life. So she started making moves. Quiet ones, careful ones. She re-enrolled in nursing school, determined to regain her independence. She was done relying on Joel, done waiting for him to be the man he had promised to be. For the first time in a long time, Maria was putting herself first. And she had no idea how dangerous that would be.
I have been wanting to do a YouTube channel for quite a while.
Take 1,000.
I would probably grab like a little bit by little. Maybe that could help you, Gabby. Whew, I like it. Just makes you look more awake. There's nothing like a good mascara and a good bronzer to make you feel good, right?
By September 2020, Maria was done being blind. She had spent months, years, trying to ignore the red flags, trying to believe that Joel was still the man she had fallen in love with. But one night, she found something that shattered any last bit of hope she had left. Joel's phone, unlocked. Her hands shook as she scrolled through his messages, her heart pounding in her chest. And then, there it was, Janet. The texts between them weren't just flirty or meaningless. They were deep, too deep. Joel didn't just want to be with Janet. He wanted Maria gone. Message after message, he poured his hatred out, telling Janet how much he despised being married to Maria, how he wished she was out of his life, how he wanted to start fresh with her. He even talked about having kids with Janet. Maria felt sick. This wasn't just cheating. This was something darker. When she confronted Joel, he didn't even flinch. His response was smooth, calculated. He told her the messages were old, that he never really meant those things, that he did love her. It was all just a misunderstanding. And just like that, Maria fell for it. Again. She forgave him, believing, hoping, that this time would be different. But Joel wasn't done hurting her, not even close. September 19, 2020. Maria had plans that night. She was supposed to go out with friends, let loose for once. But before heading out, she called Joel. And that's when she heard it. A dog barking in the background. Her blood ran cold. She and Joel didn't own a dog, but Janet did. Maria didn't say a word. She kept her voice steady, acting like she hadn't noticed. But the second she hung up, she grabbed her keys and headed straight for Janet's house. It wasn't far, and if Joel was really there, she had to know. When she pulled up, her stomach twisted into knots. Joel's car, sitting right in Janet's driveway. Everything inside Maria snapped. Without thinking, she jumped out of her car and stormed to the front door, pounding her fists against it. "How could you do this, Joel? You liar." Janet never opened the door. She didn't have to. Instead, her voice crackled through the Ring doorbell speaker. "Leave before I call the cops." Maria didn't care. She kept screaming, demanding answers. But Janet wasn't bluffing. She dialed 911, reporting Maria for causing a scene outside her house. And then, Joel did what he always did. He manipulated. He called Maria, telling her to meet him at a park nearby so they could talk, so they could fix this. Maria, desperate for answers, agreed. As she sat in the park waiting, she called her friend. She needed to vent, to make sense of everything. And then, in the middle of the call, her friend heard something chilling. Joel's voice, screaming, "Why were you at Janet's house? Why are you stalking me when I pay all the bills?" Maria had no idea that this conversation, this moment, was the beginning of the end.
Hello, manager, please. What's going on? You gonna get on? What happened?
I had a woman come by that she was already told not to be here, so I had already filed a
Check this morning? Okay.
she was here, she was asked to leave, she refused, so I can't do that.
Hey, I'm talking to you right now. Hang up the phone.
I guess that's your boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's here. I'm having a conversation with her.
This is Officer Hello Marital PD, sir.
Yeah,
I'm calling on behalf of Janela Redondo. Can I speak to her?
sure.
I'm going to ask you to not return. If not, you will be placed into custody.
Okay.
After everything Maria had endured, the lies, the betrayal, the constant manipulation, something inside her finally snapped. The pieces of her broken marriage lay scattered at her feet, and for the first time she could see the full picture. It was over. She could no longer ignore the truth, no longer pretend that anything could be salvaged. So she made the decision. It was time for a divorce. Maria picked up her phone, her hands trembling as she typed a message that would change everything. "I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be with you. It's time to hire a lawyer. Let's file for divorce. This marriage is dead. It's a waste." The words were final, cold, but it didn't matter. The damage had already been done. Joel's response came quickly, as though he'd been waiting for this moment, his tone smooth and calculated. He didn't want a lawyer. He didn't want to go through the hassle, the cost. Instead, he proposed they handle it themselves. No lawyers, no fighting over the house, no dividing the cars or the possessions he cared about. His only focus was keeping Maria from taking what he valued, the things. But the children, they didn't even cross his mind. They agreed. Monday would be the day they'd meet face to face to finalize everything, to start the process. The end was near. But then, in the darkness of the night, something happened. On September 22nd at 1:34 a.m., a 911 call came through.
Alert 911, what's the address of emergency?
I got my wife on my sponsor, and I'm kind of scared if she's not breathing. She may have taken some pills.
Okay, sir, and do you know what kind of pills they were?
Yeah, clonazepam.
The 911 call came through, and the male voice on the other end was unmistakable. It was Joel. His voice, tight and filled with urgency, trembled as he told the operator that his wife was unresponsive. When the first officer arrived, he was met at the door by Joel. The man was pale, his eyes wide with something, fear? Panic? Maybe something darker. Joel's hands shook as he led the officer inside, guiding him up the stairs. The silence in the house was suffocating. Every step felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. As they reached the second floor, the officer was led to the room where Maria lay. She wasn't moving. Maria was sprawled on the floor, her body still and lifeless. A chill ran down the officer's spine. The scene was almost too quiet, too calm.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
I'm responsive on the bed.
But I can't feel a hole. What did you take?
I think clonazepam.
But she's been pretty depressed lately.
Yeah, under control.
No, man, she's not. No, she's been down for a while. Yeah. This is 20. Confirmed 82. What's going on? What happened? Just have a seat over here.
She's been super depressed. I've been ignoring her. We're going through some problems. And I came to talk to her, like we were just talking.
So you're not staying here right now?
We had sex, I took a shower. Then I thought she was like knocked out. I didn't think anything of it. So I just kept on doing my thing. And then I go back upstairs and then she just
Oh, it's 37. Yeah, it's really 37. Talk to you, okay? Come on, you gotta go outside.
Investigators moved carefully, their eyes scanning every detail, every movement. They approached Joel, his face twisted with an unsettling mixture of grief and nervousness. His answers were quick, but his voice betrayed a hint of hesitation. He told them Maria had taken too many pills, clonazepam. He thought she'd overdosed. The words hung in the air, but something about the way he said it felt wrong. Too rehearsed, too practiced. As the investigators looked over Maria's body, something else caught their attention. They found needle marks, strange, deep punctures in her arm, like someone had been drawing blood. But the way her body lay, unnaturally still, didn't match the signs of an overdose. It didn't make sense. An overdose should have left signs, difficulty breathing, a struggle. Yet Maria appeared peaceful, almost too peaceful. The investigators exchanged uneasy glances. Something wasn't adding up. Then, as they searched further, they found more. In another room of the house, tucked away out of sight, was a medical bag. Inside were gloves, an assortment of needles, and bottles of medication. Far more than should have been there. The scene was telling a story, one Maria couldn't tell herself. The pieces of the puzzle didn't fit. The investigators turned back to Joel, their minds racing. With all of this weighing on them, they knew they had no choice but to ask him to come down for a formal interview. The truth was still hidden in the shadows, but it was getting closer. When Joel sat down for the formal interview, his eyes darted nervously around the room, his posture rigid like he was trying to hold it together. He took a deep breath, gathering himself before speaking. He told investigators the story they had expected. Maria had killed herself. He said she'd been depressed for a while, that she had been struggling, and one night, she had taken his bottle of pills, clonazepam, and decided to end her life. His voice cracked as he spoke, but there was something hollow in his tone. The words felt rehearsed, like he had said them over and over in his mind, preparing for this moment. But the more he spoke, the more unnatural it seemed. The investigators sat in silence, their eyes fixed on him, watching for any signs, any inconsistencies. They'd heard the story before, too many times to count, but something didn't sit right. Maria's body, the needle marks, the medical supplies, none of it lined up with Joel's explanation. And behind his words, they could feel it. The subtle shift, the tension building like a storm on the horizon.
What's going on, man? She's been really impressed because so glad we got separated. Oh, you said that Maria was taking pills for depression. Were they prescribed to her? Yeah, they were. And hers ran out, so mine's were recently given to me. So I just had to give her some. You know the name of the drug? Yeah, 1 milligram clonazepam. Check my pills, 2 pills in it. Yeah, she took them all. Got my fire. Okay. Did she inject herself with anything that you're know? Do you know? Would she inject herself with anything? And if she did, what would it be? You know? Did you inject her tonight? No. anything?
In the end, the investigators made the decision to let Joel go, but there was no relief in their eyes. They knew something was off, something he wasn't saying. His story just didn't match the evidence, but there was still a piece of the puzzle missing: the toxicology report. They needed more time. The waiting game dragged on, each day feeling longer than the last. The investigators knew the truth was out there, but they had to be sure. They needed to build a stronger case before they could make their move. Then, in January 2021, the toxicology report finally came back. Maria's body had no trace of the clonazepam Joel had claimed she overdosed on. Nothing. But what they did find was far worse, far more chilling. In her system were several drugs, each in high, lethal doses. They were a cocktail that, when mixed, could take a life in the blink of an eye. Versed ketamine, morphine, drugs that had no place in Maria's life, and certainly no reason for her to have taken them herself. But it didn't end there. Propofol, Narcan, lidocaine, Demerol. The list went on. The presence of propofol sent chills down the investigators' spines. It was a drug that knocked you out instantly, a powerful anesthetic used only in medical settings. It couldn't be self-administered. It needed a professional to inject it. How had Maria gotten this? And why had Joel never mentioned any of it? On January 16th, 2021, the investigators had everything they needed. Joel was arrested for the murder of Maria. But even then, as the handcuffs clicked into place, his expression never changed.
Wait up, police, or we're gonna break down the door!
Joel's trial began in March of 2023, a long-awaited moment that would reveal the truth behind Maria's tragic death. His defense was cold, calculated. Maria had been sick, depressed. She had taken her own life, and Joel had only tried to save her, injecting her with the drugs to revive her. But as the trial unfolded, the truth began to seep out. In court, Maria's journal was presented, a quiet testament to the life she had loved. It revealed something different from the story Joel had told. Maria wasn't depressed. She wasn't planning on ending her life. Her words, written in those pages, spoke of a woman full of hope, someone who was excited to return to nursing, to find herself again, to break free from the suffocating grip of Joel's toxic behavior. She spoke of a future she was eager to live, one that didn't involve him. Not once did she mention harming herself or anyone else. The defense's story began to unravel. Then came the details of that fatal night, the night Maria's life was taken. It was revealed that Joel had called her, telling her he was coming over. When he arrived, he had a cup of coffee in his hand, playing the role of the concerned husband pretending to care. But that coffee was laced with a deadly mixture. 3 lethal drugs, carefully chosen to knock Maria out within seconds. And once she was asleep, defenseless, Joel injected her with another cocktail of poisons that would take her life. In just 2 hours, from the moment he walked through the door to the time he called 911, Maria was gone. But what happened in those 2 hours, between when she fell unconscious and when Joel made the call? No one knew, except Joel. The jury didn't hesitate. Joel was found guilty of murder and tampering with evidence. The sentence was clear, cold. He was sentenced to life in prison, where he would finally face the consequences of his actions. And Maria's story, the truth of what had happened that night, would live on. The story of Maria and Joel is a tragic reminder of the dark secrets that can hide behind closed doors, the lies that twist the truth, and the devastating consequences of a broken trust. Maria's life was taken not by a simple act of desperation, but by the cold, calculated hands of someone who had promised to love and protect her. The truth, once buried in deception, was eventually brought to light, and justice was served. Though no sentence can ever bring back what was lost. Maria's story may have ended in tragedy, but her voice, her truth, was heard in the courtroom, and it will echo in the hearts of those who knew and loved her. She was more than just a victim of a twisted betrayal. She was a mother, a daughter, a woman with dreams and hopes that were cruelly taken from her. As for Joel, his life now unfolds behind bars, where the truth of his actions will remain the only companion he'll ever have. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as unsettling as I did, make sure to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe for more true crime cases that'll leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and always remember, sometimes the most dangerous people hide in plain sight. Until next time.